what went wrong.
This show is being filmed for a comedy special using money David's wife didn't even know they had. So please, keep your chatter to a minimum or none so that it pays off.
You guys give a warm Grand Rapids Pyramid Scheme welcome for my friend, the very funny one and only David Dyer. You guys let him hear it. David Dyer!
Thank you very much. Another hand for Adam Deggy. Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate it. And I was not lying about the money. She doesn't know. Let's start off by letting you know that contrary to the story my face might be saying, I did not arrive here tonight on a bicycle with a very large front wheel. Nor am I that guy in the background of the pictures at Kitty Hawk. So this was a conscious decision that is not met with a lot of applause by my spouse. So here's how we're going to start. This is what we're going to do right off the bat. I'm going to set some expectations for the next bit of time we're going to spend together. Not expectations about what's going to happen, more about what's not going to happen. I think that's a better way to approach things. This is not going to be an emotional experience for you. This is not going to be deep. I'm not going to try to make you cry at any point. I don't have a lot of empathy for myself, let alone others, so this is going to be just fun, okay? There's not going to be a lot of big words. I got 24 on my ACTs twice, so that should give you some expectation on the syllable count you'll be dealing with. If on occasion I throw out a big word, just rest assured there's a very good chance I don't know what it means either. I don't give out dating advice. I do talk about relationships. I just want you to know you do not have to follow what I say. I've been married a very long time, and I think some of the strategies and tactics we used to use when I was dating are probably misdemeanors at this point, so let's not even open that can of worms. I also don't do politics, although I'm going to cover this one thing so we can get it out of the way. Because I think we can all agree that at this point, our only hope may be that they find some long-lost constitutional amendment stating that another requirement to be president is the completion of a simple obstacle course. Nothing crazy, no Spartan race, no Tough Mudder, something we can set up in a cafeteria in a couple minutes. You got to slalom in and out of a couple cones. You crawl under a table. 4, maybe 5 push-ups. And then you blow up a balloon. Because I think right there we can agree we can start from scratch, right? Because Biden's not making it through the cones. He's knocking the first cone over, disqualified, he's out. Trump will make it to the push-ups. Find some loophole where his attorney can do the push-ups for him. But that balloon, that's going to be the killer. Look at the size of that head. Those vessels are under such pressure already. He blows in that thing, his eye's going to pop like a pug when they sneeze. Just be dangling right there on national TV. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about. I was online a little while back, and I was reading an article about the penis of the male blue whale. And for those of you who don't know, the penis of the male blue whale can be 8 to 10 feet long. Jesus Christ. Now, if you think about that, a blue whale can be 100 feet long. That means potentially the penis of the male blue whale can be 1/10 the length of that animal. Now, I know there's some alphas in the crowd going, yeah, that sounds about right. Not a chance, Brock. Not even close. I know I'm not close. But here's the good news. I'm a very glass half full kind of guy. Over the last 5 years, I have shrunk from 5'7" to 5'6". So things are starting to go my way. Now, I only tell you that joke because I'll be interested to see how many people leave tonight, look at their phones and go, there's nothing but whale penises on here now. Because it's the algorithm, right? They're listening in. Every device is listening in. They're herding us like cattle, telling us where to go, what to think, what to do, right? I find it very weird. For a while, every time I logged into YouTube, my video feed was full of nothing but videos of hot Colombian women riding horses, which I've become a big fan of. But I have no idea why the algorithm thought that's what I needed to see. Because here's the thing, if you look at my search history, most of the stuff I look up are things like classic cars, motorcycles, whale penises, and Legos. So the only thing I can figure is that the algorithm looked at that and went, are you shitting me, Legos? This guy's poor wife. He hasn't even tried to have sex with his wife in ages. We gotta get him refocused. What seems to work with the chubby white guys? Latina equestrian. Start throwing that shit at him all day. And don't stop until he Googles Viagra, for Christ's sake. I don't mind that they're listening in. I got nothing to hide. I see benefits. We have an Amazon Echo with a Prime account. I have figured out that if you masturbate in the same room as Alexa, 2 days later, tissues on the doorstep. Very convenient. I just turned 55. Starting to smell 55. You ever notice that when you get older? When you're out in public, you're like, Jesus Christ, what is that? God damn it, that's me. It's me. It's me. It's kind of a mix of summer sausage and Mike and Ike's. It's a very weird kind of beefy, fruity smell. Some days it's a little more beefy, some days it's a little more fruity, but they're both always there. I try to stay in shape. I got in too good a shape a few years ago. I did a program called 75 Hard. Anybody ever done that? Have you heard of it? For those of you who haven't, here's what it is. For 75 days, you have to pick some sort of meal plan, some sort of diet. They don't care what you pick, but you have to stick to it to the letter. No cheat days. You have to do 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each, of which one of them has to be outside. You have to take a progress picture, read 10 pages of a book, drink a gallon of water, and no alcohol for 75 days. And let me tell you what, if you stick to this thing and you don't stray, at the end of those 75 days, you will have throngs of people letting you know what a miserable piece of shit you've been for the last 2.5 months. You'll have people say things like, we like Fat Dave a lot better. Fit Dave is an irritable drip. I like it when people humble you like that, when they tell you the truth. That's a great thing about life. I love being put in my place. I'm at the store not long ago. I'm walking towards the grocery store. A guy walks past me faster than me. As he passes me, he looks at me and goes, right there, asshole. I don't even know what I did. But I couldn't stop laughing because I love those moments where people put you in your place. Because here's the reality, people. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you've accomplished. I don't care what your standing is in the community, what your family thinks of you. Somebody out there doesn't like you. Somebody out there thinks you're an asshole. You did something to somebody. You cut somebody off in a grocery store parking lot. You slobbered all over a joint everybody was trying to enjoy. You took the last custard-filled Long John when that World War II vet behind you wanted it. You've done something. And there are conversations that go on without you knowing, and when your name comes up, somebody goes, that motherfucker. Let me tell you what that piece of shit did. Nobody is immune. Somebody didn't like Mr. Rogers. Not me, but somebody didn't like him, I'll guarantee you. Somebody doesn't like Dolly Parton. Not me, but somebody doesn't like her. Somebody at the Vatican doesn't like the Pope. Yeah, exactly, right? It's some guy who works in the kitchen. The Pope's got some weird little food quirk. He likes crunchy peanut butter, but he wants the peanuts taken out. It's an incredibly laborious process. This guy clocks out at 5. His girlfriend's been sexting him all afternoon. He is amped up and ready to go. And at 4:50, Francis, orders a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Son of a bitch. Let me tell you what this piece of shit does every day. Nobody's immune. I started taking a testosterone booster not too long ago. Nobody told me to. I wasn't prescribed. Just thought, let's give this a whirl, see what happens. I'm not even sure if it's working. I don't know how I can tell if it's working, right? I don't know if there's a way to check the stiffness of my boners now before, when I was... And I can't run that test myself. I'm going to be biased. I'll be in a dark basement going, oh yeah, that's way stiffer. That's a lot stiffer. I don't even know if there's a unit of measurement for stiffness. There is. It's called pounds force. I looked it up. You can throw that out on a first date, right? This isn't going any further unless I know what kind of pounds force you're pulling down there. Hell, make it part of your Tinder profile. See if your swipes go up. One of the effects of the testosterone booster is supposed to be an increased libido. Let me give you some advice from somebody who's been married for a very long time. If that's the reason you're going to take these things, the increased libido, you may want to check in with the potential recipient of the increased libido. Make sure they're on board. Because when I told Janice about the increased libido, her response was, oh, well, where do you plan on using that? I said, well, I was kind of hoping the bedroom, but based on that reaction, sounds like my office. I bought a smartwatch to track my health. Anybody else track their health with a smartwatch? A few of us do. It's tracking things I didn't know I was supposed to be tracking, like how much I stand over the course of a day. If at any point during the day I stand for more than a minute, I get points towards my daily stand goal. A minute and I get some points. Those are some pretty low expectations. I think the people at Apple want me to move. They got to start shaming me instead, right? Put like a procrastination meter on this thing. Make me feel like shit about myself. Tie it in with my calendar. That way at the end of the day, I look at my phone, I go, holy shit, I spent 2 hours not doing shit I was supposed to do today. No wonder I'm still renting, for God's sakes. I have a love-hate relationship with this thing. When I brought it home, I took the dog for a hike, and when I got back, it said I burned 100 calories. We walked for like 3 miles. I'm like, 100 calories? Fuck off. There's no way I only burned 100 calories. I was sweating profusely. My left arm was throbbing and tingling the whole time. Well, what I didn't realize is you have to go into the app on the phone and create a profile, and I hadn't done that yet. So when I went into the app, I realized that by default, I was a 120-pound woman. So I've changed it, and I'm now a 400-pound man with asthma. Burned 1,000 calories making a sandwich Tuesday. You got to be careful if you're tracking steps. You want to be careful because this thing will mistake other arm movements for steps. So you got to be very careful about that. Janice was out of town a couple weeks ago. I met my steps goal by noon. I hadn't even left the house yet. Here's one thing I didn't know. If you're wearing one of these, check this out. Your heart rate is near its lowest when you're pooping. Did you know that? And that's by design. You have a nerve in your body called the vagus nerve, and it controls digestion, and it purposely relaxes you and lowers your heart rate so that you're calm when you're pooping. Which I think is an evolutionary flaw. Because I was the youngest of 4 boys. We spent all kinds of time doing bathroom tricks on each other. I had 2 daughters who would burst in the bathroom at any time looking for their curling irons. I feel very vulnerable when I'm pooping. I would prefer an elevated heart rate in case I have to cut and flee at any moment. I also don't like the fact that my heart rate's very similar when I'm pooping as when I'm sleeping. Because God forbid those wires get crossed after a night of Coors Lights. I'll spend the whole next day worried to death that any time I yawn, I might shit my pants too. So. 55, like I said, I have to get another colonoscopy this year. Anybody get a colonoscopy lately? Anybody? Yes? How did it go? Did it go okay? Did it? It was a lot of fun? Yeah. It's not a big deal these days. It's a very smooth process. The prep's always going to be awful. You spend a day shooting river water out of your ass at about 100 PSI. But the procedure itself, nothing. You just kind of fade out and you fade back in. And of course, you know they're flopping you around like a tuna on that table when you're out, right? Flip them over, shove it in, take a picture, move them along. Let's go. I got 36 of these I got to do by lunch. I was disappointed with how smooth it was. Because my job as a comedian is to have experiences that I can come and relate in a comical manner to you people, and this was nothing. So I went back and I did some history looking, and I found that the original colonoscopies, that's a good story. They started doing it in like the early 70s. Ooh, raw. No anesthesia. They bring in a nightclub bouncer. That guy pins you down so you can't get away. They take a PVC tube and that goes in you. No cameras. They got a sketch artist with some charcoal and an easel. They send that guy in with a miner's helmet on, and if he finds something, he draws a little picture. It's like on those Midway at Cedar Point, you got a little polyp with a top hat on or something. I had to get a regular physical not too long ago either. Anybody get a regular physical lately? Anybody just? Yeah. Here's a lesson I learned on my last physical: scheduling. Be careful when you schedule your physical. My last physical was at 4:30 on a Friday. This guy's looking at my EKG results. He goes, I'm no expert, but I don't think this is supposed to be going up like this. Ooh, Jesus Christ. I think you'll be okay. You're going to be fine. Right in the middle of the physical, out of the blue, he goes, I'm going to let you keep masturbating. I'm like, I didn't know that was an issue. Because it is. Because I'm going to let you keep masturbating, but I want you to be more cautious about it. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And I'm not going to ask. So I went home and I set up a little arrangement with my neighbor Dan. I said, listen, Danny, I'm going to text you when I start. And I'm going to text you when I'm done. And if that gap is more than 5 minutes, you got to come check on me. His house is for sale. So. Here's another thing I don't like about my doctor. He's not in good shape. And you can say, well, he doesn't have to be. Yeah, he kind of fucking does, okay? If he's gonna tisk me about the amount of red vines I eat, he better do it when he's not wearing a lab coat that's hugging his torso like a bratwurst casing, all right? We had a bit of a health scare a few years ago. My wife, at the age of 50, had a stroke. She had a little ischemic stroke, and she's fine. She completely recovered, but man, that's a scary deal. That's a game changer. You gotta make some major life changes if something like that happens, man. You gotta start eating better. You gotta start cutting back on the booze. You gotta start exercising, and she isn't doing any of that. But I started, because if she has another one of these things, I have to be ready for that profile picture. She had to go on a blood pressure medication because of it, and she was also still taking the pill, and those conflicted, so she could no longer be on the pill. So at the age of 50, I had to start wearing condoms. I don't know if anybody here has ever tried to put a condom on a 50-year-old penis, but it's quite a challenge. It's a bit like trying to wrangle an unruly toddler at the mall, you know? They spend a little time giggling and trying to evade you, and once you finally get a grip, they just kind of limp in your hand, and at that point, it's like putting a turtleneck on an earthworm. I mean, it's game over. I'm a parent, got 2 daughters, and my oldest one moved to Philadelphia last year, so they're out of the house again. We're empty nesters. Every time you tell someone you're an empty nester, like, oh, did you miss him? 3 days. After about 3 days, you're like, it's so quiet. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's accusing anybody of anything. I can't believe we had them. What the fuck were we thinking? And by the way, they got to find a different name than empty nesters, because both of our girls left a lot of shit behind. There's nothing fucking empty about it. Janice and I basically live in a storage garage with 2 less people. We can't even have people over. People come to our house, are like, you're hoarders? No. Parents, none of this is our shit. It was tough though, man. When they were in high school, that's a tough time. Anybody who's raised girls. See, I was the youngest of 4 boys, so a completely different environment than raising 2 girls. And man, I tried, but I just was not very sensitive. And I would try to give them advice, and my wife would get very angry. And they're so upset when you talk to them. I don't know everything you're saying, but they're coming to me, they're panicking. I have to lie to them just to get them back on track. Did you really tell Abby that at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit? It's been my experience, yeah. I have the 2 daughters, my lovely wife, and I was surrounded. And I would spend half my day asking people why they were crying. There were a lot of tears. I never got a straight answer why. I would just get tones and body language insinuating, it's probably your fault. That would be half my day. The other half of my day would be spent defending myself. Saying things like, I don't know how that happened. Pretty sure I wasn't here when that happened. Don't have a goddamn clue what you're talking about. I wrote a musical about my life called This Is Fucking Bullshit. Because that was generally the attitude I would have to take to get through the day. And it went a little something like this. This is fucking bullshit. I don't have to tell you how that money was spent. This is fucking bullshit. I can't believe you gave up intercourse for Lent. This is fucking bullshit. I snap, I buy another motorcycle, and I'm right back in trouble. That's what happens. Intermission. The second act is that contemplative to be or not to be moment where I'm questioning everything. The scene is the back deck in our house. It's 2 a.m. I'm out there in just my underpants. Just gotten high all by myself. Staring out at the stars with a tear streaming down my cheek. This is fucking bullshit. They're wrong about the trouble I make. This is fucking bullshit. I'm not the one who ate that cake. This is fucking bullshit. Of course I've made mistakes before, but this is fucking bullshit. Her friend's fake breasts I can't ignore. It's gonna be bigger than Cats someday, goddammit. We're taking it on the road. I'll tell you one thing we failed at with the kids. I think Janice and I can both agree on this. We did not teach them how to threaten people well. And while you may not think that's a useful skill, it is. When you're negotiating things, it's very, very good to know how to scare people. And I'll give you an example. We have an Amazon account that we all share, which I think is a felony today. Our oldest daughter had a gift card that she put on the Amazon account. For those of you who don't know, that's the default payment unless you select something else. The younger daughter went into Amazon, bought something, wiped out the gift card. Oof. Anybody who's raised girls, you know this is fucking serious. This is right up there with Archduke Ferdinand being assassinated to start World War I. I mean, the potential for widespread implications is there. So the oldest daughter's furious. And she doesn't just want her sister to pay. Everybody's going to pay for this. So here's what she says to me. She goes, here's how I'm going to handle this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to set up my own Amazon account. Let me get this straight. Our punishment as a family for somebody else using your gift card accidentally is that you're no longer going to use a service that I provide to you for free. Yeah, that's right. Boy, you know what? If you really wanted to rip my heart out, you'd set up your own Verizon account, too. I guess we succeeded. Neither of them ran away. I don't know if I chalk that up to good parenting or shitty Wi-Fi at the bus station, one of the two, but... My oldest brother, Mark, is the only one of us who ran away. Unofficially. He claims to have run away. Nobody can corroborate his story, because it was the 70s. We were all outside. You couldn't tell who was a runaway and who wasn't back then. Not to mention, in my book, for it to be official runaway attempt, two things have to happen. Number one, somebody has to give a shit, and two, look for you. And neither of those happened with my brother. Search over. My brother Andy is the reader in our family, very smart guy. You gotta have a reader in the family. Somebody has to know what the hell's going on. Because the other three of us would be beating the shit out of each other in the backyard. He'd be inside finishing The Hobbit for the third time. Needless to say, he didn't need new sneakers quite as often as we did. But it's paid off. He's a doctor, lives in a beautiful home. He's got a swimming pool in his backyard. He's got some chickens wandering around his property. He's got a sports car in the garage. And I live in a single-story ranch with hollow core doors and spend a good chunk of time trying to rhyme words with testicle. So... majestical is the best you could do. Majestical testicles. Doesn't that sound like a Dr. Seuss book he couldn't get published? Brought that to his editor one day. Let me get this straight, Ted. This is a children's book about a magic scrotum full of whoozy whats and wampaloos. I don't think it's a go. My brother John was the golden boy. Handsome, athletic, smart. Went to college on a full-ride football scholarship. But like a lot of the golden boys, that shine starts to dim, doesn't it? Huh? Senior year, that spiral's not as tight as it used to be. Dreams of being in the NFL float away like a child's balloon at the park. You get out of college, you get a job in sales, you rent an apartment that's a little too far from a gym, a little too close to a bakery. Next thing you know, you're buying elastic waist pants and standing in line with the rest of us who have slow metabolisms. Welcome to the basement, Johnny. My dad was a good guy. My dad was a badass. Not like a SEAL or a Green Beret. There's other kind of badasses out there. My dad was definitely one of them. My dad grew up dirt poor, like in the 40s and the 50s. Went to college, played baseball at Michigan State. He's a lefty with a hell of a breaking ball. Held down 2 jobs at Michigan State while he was playing baseball. Used to go to the scholarship office at Michigan State, fill out applications for scholarships that were never claimed. That's how he paid his way through school. He was married. They had 2 kids when he graduated. Went to the dental school at the University of Michigan. Graduated from there. Then they had 3 kids. Joined the Air Force. Went back from Syracuse to Grand Rapids and had a very successful dental practice. Worked his ass off his whole life. Worked his ass off. And always had that poor kid mentality. We'd be driving down the Beltline 55 miles an hour. If he saw a pop can, we would pull over and pick it up. And he couldn't believe nobody had gotten to it yet. Triumphantly raising in the air, 10 cents, who leaves this shit? And I would have to answer to friends of mine about this. My buddies would be like, hey man, I saw your dad picking up pop cans in the Beltline. Isn't he a dentist? Yeah, he is. That's what he makes the fillings with. Every Halloween, my dad would pass out a candy bar and a toothbrush. Every kid got a candy bar and a toothbrush, which sounds kind of sweet and kind of creepy. It's like going to your drug dealer, you get a bag of heroin, and as you're leaving, he goes, hey, take a little Narcan, too. I grew up in a good time, man. The 70s, it was great. That's when parents didn't lie to you. They still told you the truth. You knew exactly where you stood with your parents. My nickname growing up, given to me by my dad, was Fi. F-I. Fucking idiot. That was my nickname. And I gave him plenty of reasons to deserve it. 5 years old, went in to take a poop, forgot to put the seat down, slipped into the toilet ass first, screamed at the top of my lungs, I'm drowning! Until somebody came in and plucked me out. Fucking idiot. In high school, I dated a girl who lived in Coopersville, Michigan, 30 miles away. Took her out on a date in my dad's Ford Bronco, drove home from Coopersville, 30 miles with the emergency brake on. Fucking idiot. It was great. You knew which parent was good at certain things. I think that's one of the problems we have with the parenting today. We try to be everything to our kids, and you can't be. But back then, you knew you went to mom for this, you went to dad for that. For example, you did not go to my dad to talk about your feelings. He grew up dirt poor in the 40s and 50s. He simply wasn't equipped for that conversation. If you went to my dad and said, Dad, I got to talk to you about something, he'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, what? Well, I'm feeling kind of sad. Who isn't? Who gives a shit, okay? Everybody's sad. And he'd end the conversation saying something like, I don't know what to tell you. You know what? Here's what I'll say. You're going to end up doing a lot more shit in this life that you don't like to do than stuff you like to do. That's just how it works out, champ. My dad passed away 15 years ago. And he lived with my wife and I for the last 8 months of his life. He was sick, and we brought him into our home with hospice care. It was a great experience. He's a wonderful guy. He was a very generous man. And here's how generous my dad was. Right before he died, he swallowed a silver dollar just so he could tip the guy who cremated him. How about that? That's a good man. Somebody asked me if I'd ever want to get in touch with my dad in the afterlife, like do a seance. I said, yeah, I would. Not for emotional reasons. I told my dad everything I wanted to say when he was alive. He knew I loved him. But here's the thing. After he lived with us, there's a lot of shit I can't find around the house. I kind of like to know where it is. Be standing there with my hands hovering above the Ouija board going, what'd you do with my crescent wrench? You lend it to Mr. Simmons? Well, good news. He died last year. Go see if he knows where it is. He was a very funny guy. He's a big part of the reason I do comedy. He'd always want to know where I'm going to, where I'm traveling to, everything about my career. And every time I tell him where I'm traveling to, he'd give me some warning based on some stupid historical fact. Where are you going next weekend? Wisconsin. Wisconsin? Whew, Jesus, be careful. It's Wisconsin, I know, but they're still pissed about the UP. The Upper Peninsula, you're goddamn right. They wanted it, we got it, they've never gotten over it. I'm pretty sure they're over it, Pops. Okay, well, roll the dice, hotshot, see what happens. I'm currently going through a divorce. It's not mine. It's one of my best friends, but he talks about it so much I feel like I'm right in the fucking middle of this thing with him.
Okay, that's a good one.
It's getting real close to the point where I'm thinking of leaving him. Marry your best friend. That's the advice they give you. Marry your best friend, right? Here's the problem with that. My best friend likes to text me pictures of really big shits that he takes, so I'm going to stick with the casual acquaintance I originally chose. No, my wife Janice and I, we've been together 31 years. We just celebrated 31 years of marriage, yeah. A few people give a shit, that's all right. Somebody asked me recently if we get jealous of each other after 31 years. Not after 31 years. After 31 years, if somebody's hitting on your spouse, you walk over and you go, look it. Before you go burning a lot of calories here. What do you say we go through the list of stuff she doesn't like and won't do? And then you decide if you want to continue down this road. How about that? Everyone wants to know the secret to a long marriage. If you've been married a long time, people, what's the secret? And people spit out just cliche, stupid shit, right? Communication. That's the key. You got to talk to each other. It's got to be open. If there's something you don't like about the other person, you got to let them know so you can work on it. Who are you testing these theories on? Sitting around telling each other what we don't like about each other, that's how all of our arguments start. Don't go to bed angry. That's another one. Don't go to bed. You go to bed angry. That's the beginning and the end if you go to bed angry. Here's the key to a long marriage, okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you. There are tremendous peaks and valleys in a marriage. There's some great things, but there are big valleys too. And you've got to figure out, here's what you have to do. You have to find a way to channel the energy you'd like to use to hurt somebody into something legal. Hobbies. Lots of hobbies, okay? And solitary hobbies by yourself. Don't let these fucking pickleball couples fool you for a second, all right? That's a trend that's going to come to a tragic end in the next decade. You put a married couple on a pickleball court, there's immediate athletic tension. Somebody's going to miss a shot. Old issues are going to come to the surface. Everybody's got a paddle. It's not going to end well. You mark my words, pretty soon every episode of Dateline will have some kind of pickleball connection tied to it. Hobbies, you gotta find hobbies. I don't care what it is, man. Model trains, home brewing, falconry, whatever you gotta do to stay out of prison. You show somebody who's married has a lot of hobbies. I will show you somebody who's looked up hydrofluoric acid on the internet. Don't go to bed angry. Don't go to bed first. That's smarter. It's tough, man. The Golden Bachelor couple couldn't make it. That's how tough marriage is. They got married in January. In April, they said they're splitting up. And people couldn't believe it. How do you not believe it? They're 70, for Christ's sake. Do you know how set in their ways people are at that age? I'm 55, and if I was single and dating right now, do you know how little it would take for me to go, see ya?
I know.
I would spend most of our first date trying to find reasons to not like you. Sitting at dinner, the way you use your fork, gross. I can't watch this all night. The things that would be asked of you. I want you to meet my kids. Not interested. Don't give a shit. I've got 2 of my own who are still kind of a challenge. I'm good. At my age, the most attractive quality somebody could have would be living an hour away from me. That 60-minute buffer would be so hot. I'm not easy to be married to, man. I give Janice a lot of credit. I am a struggle. I got some things. I deal with some OCD. That drives her nuts, and understandably. And I've never been officially diagnosed. I don't think you need an official diagnosis for OCD. You want a diagnosis? Talk to my neighbor, Jason, because he gets about 4 phone calls a week when I'm not home asking if I remember to put my garage door down. So he'll tell you I got it. Here's where the OCD gets me lately. If you take a screenshot from your phone and you send me that picture, I don't care what the picture is, the only thing I pay attention to is your cell phone battery life. That's the only thing I look at. You could send me a picture of somebody drawing a dick and balls on the chin of the Mona Lisa, and my response will be 5%. How the fuck do you live like this? My mind works in very weird ways. My days are constructed in paths. Here's what I mean. Everything I need, I get up every morning, I have a ton of shit I want to accomplish. Everything I need to accomplish has to be in my path, and if it's not and I don't pick it up, tectonic plates start to move and my world falls apart. For example, if I have to run a bunch of errands, everything I need to accomplish those errands has to be on the kitchen counter in my path on the way out the door. It might be a check I have to deposit at the bank. Could be something I have to return to the Ace Hardware. It doesn't matter. Everything has to be there so I can scoop it up and take care of all my boxes. Here's the problem. I'm married to somebody who hates clutter. So the window of time in which my path can exist is very tight. So tight that I can hardly turn my back on my path. Because if I do, I run the risk of somebody coming along and going, well, this stuff doesn't need to be here. And it gets moved, and it is the quintessential example of Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown. Because the next thing I know, I'm in the lobby of the bank, floating up in the air with no check in my hand, going, I should have married Peppermint Patty, for Christ's sake. Now, granted, we don't know which way Patty goes, but it doesn't matter, because I'll guarantee you she was a slob, which means that check would have stayed on the counter and would be in the bank. I'm restless as hell. I'm up about 5:30 every day. Let's fucking go. You don't have to get up at 5:30, but you'll be up by 6, I'll guarantee. We have a border collie at home that looks at me like, fucking relax. You're making me look bad. I'm supposed to be the reason we can't have people over. Here's the good thing about being restless. You will never lose me at a party. I'm right by the door. Let's fucking go. We've been here 20 minutes already, for Christ's sake. And you're probably thinking, well, that can't be much fun for Janice. I'm sure it's not. But you know what? She's the exact opposite. Stays way too long. Doesn't pick up on social cues. We'll be at somebody's house. She'll crack open another beer. I'll be like, honey, we got to get the hell out of here. And she's like, I just opened this. It's fresh. And I'll say, I know, but the people who live here went to bed a half hour ago. I left 2 hours ago. I just happened to be in the area running errands. We went to high school together, Janice and I did. Never dated in high school. We were part of two very different social groups in high school. I was in a gang called the Land's End Kids. Wore our chinos all year and boat shoes with no socks. Very intimidating. You didn't want to poke that golden retriever, and God help you if you did. And my wife belonged to a group where you needed a fake ID and a Bic lighter to get into it. So, not 100% sure, but I think The Outsiders was loosely based on us. So. She's a good lady. She's a little frugal. I had to get a new license on my last birthday, and she goes, make sure you check the organ donor box. I said, I will. She goes, no, seriously, make sure you check the organ donor box. I said, I will. Back off. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, she just wants you to do the right thing. No, I know this woman. Okay. She wants me to give away my organs so she can buy a smaller urn. That's what's going on here. She can be a little passive-aggressive. She was going to the store a while back. She goes, you need anything? I said, yeah. Why don't you grab some cookies so we got something sweet to munch on? Came home from the store with a package of pecan sandies. That's not a cookie. That's a fuck you. That's Janice standing in the cookie aisle going, you want something sweet, you son of a bitch? How about you gnaw on this hunk of limestone for a while? This is not my only job. I am also a firefighter with one of the departments in the air. That's the other job I Got into it very late. I was 48 when I became a firefighter, and the kids were out of the house for the first time. And I told Janice I wanted to do this, and she was not happy about it. She goes, we're empty nesters. This is a time of our life we're supposed to get to know each other and reconnect, and you're telling me that you would rather run into a burning building. I said, well, I hadn't thought about it like that. But, it does sound safer. So I respected her wishes. I did not do it. 2 weeks. If you're wondering how long it takes to get to know and reconnect with me, it's about 2 weeks. Because after 14 days, my wife was like, I will start a building on fire for you to run into. How about that? I grew the mustache. Everyone asked, does your wife like the mustache? No, she hates it. Are you going to shave it off? No, I'm not shaving it off. Aren't you going to shave it off? I'm not shaving it off because I ran the numbers. I counted up the sex I was getting before the mustache, and I counted up the sex after the mustache. This isn't affecting anything. We try all kinds of stuff to look younger as we get older, right? I think it's more common men my age get plastic surgery more than they used to. I have no plans of it, but one of my friends had a job done. He had his eyelids lifted because they were drooping, which is fine, but the problem is he didn't tell any of us. And we went out one night, and he shows up. He goes, you notice anything different? I'm like, Jesus Christ, Bob. You got a new espresso machine. Is that what's going on here? He goes, no, I had my eyelids lifted. I'm like, well, Halloween is covered forever. And he looks at me, he goes, how does it look? I'm like, I can't lie to the guy. He's one of my best friends. But I can tell they botched something because his eyes are wide open, but his eyebrows furrowed over more. And I said, I got to be honest, Bob. It looks like you just saw the water balloon coming at your face. That's what it looks like. Janice and I, we've had to make some modifications to our lives as we've aged. We have most of our sex in the afternoon these days. We have figured out that that's when we seem to be most alert, best able to focus on what goes where and when. Cramping has become an issue. Not for her, but for me. I have to manage my electrolytes very carefully. We've had more than one occasion when my hamstrings and glutes have seized mid-thrust. If something like that happens, you want to make sure you got a banana on the nightstand, and just make sure you grab the banana, not the banana-shaped machine lying next to it, because you don't want to add a chipped tooth to your list of injuries. But if that happens and Alexa's in the room, 2 days later, there'll be a mouth guard on the doorstep. So I'm David Dyer. Thank you very much, folks. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Thank you.